Morning, everyone. Paul, Shelley, and Jean, thanks for joining the webinar. I'm Kate, a virtual person created with artificial intelligence.
Sorry, can I do it?
Let me introduce you to Paul, my co-host today. Paul is also an artificial intelligence person.
Hi, Kate, and everybody. Thanks to all the people connected to the session. It's nice to meet you. Let's get started with our webinar, Kate. Tell us about the main topic, and then I'll introduce our panelists.
Thank you, Paul. Two worlds will integrate today to create a whole new one. Digital, exponential, and faster than ever before. Strategy is one of the pillars for any company, but strategy is a broad concept. You have to dive into it and understand the focus of the strategy based on the needs of the business. We have to be strategic for market and sales, for leadership and talent, for finance and operations. On the other side, we have time and opportunity as challenges for any company today. 26 January, we almost finished the first month of 2023. We ran until today almost 9% of the year. There are only 11 months left. As companies, speed is vital to survive, grow, decide, move, and lead. Slower companies have greater risk and less ability to compete. That's where technology comes in to help power strategy with speed, more specifically business analytics. But I prefer to let our panelists speak. Let's get moving with Paul and our panelists to discover the exciting session they have prepared for us. Remember, you can share questions, opinions, and comments using the chat or the question button. Go ahead, Paul.
Kate, I am delighted. The webinar is the result of several conversations between Shelley and Jean. They found a common purpose to help other businesses grow, but more importantly, they discovered that they are working on two different approaches to achieve this. Shelley from strategy and Jean from business analytics technology. They realized that integrating both worlds would create a huge benefit and impact for the business, achieving exponentially faster growth. As a result, Oclas Consulting and AnniQ joined forces to help companies create better and more accurate strategies based on business analytics. Let's get going with Paul and our panelists to discover the exciting session they have prepared for us. Let's get to the introductions. Shelley is an entrepreneur, philanthropist, avid photographer, and founder of a new age consulting firm, Oclas Consulting, a pioneer of several charitable causes, including the Charity Golf Club UK, the Oclas Foundation, the Mary Slessor Foundation, the Lagos Oil Club, and a member of the Worshipful Company of Entrepreneurs. She is also involved in setting up a nurturing program that creates an environment for students to develop their potential to achieve careers in the City of London with enhanced self-reflection, communication, and technology skills, in partnership with the University of Kent. Welcome, Shelley. Our next panelist is Jean. Jean is also an entrepreneur, a tech geek who loves the connection between science, technology, and business. He is a Colombian who leads AnniQ and Spin Quantum Tech, two companies in the UK, with the purpose of pursuing exponentiality by enabling businesses with data and technology to grow faster. Welcome to Jean. But well, that's enough of our talk. I'll leave you with Sheyi and Jean. Kate, let's start with something open. Let's let Sheyi and Jean tell us a little bit about today before we go to the questions. Who wants to start?
All right. Well, thank you all so much. Thank you, the AI people. I must say, it's quite weird. Kate and Paul are actually not real people. So these are actually people designed from an AI perspective. The questions they're going to be asking, I have some algorithm of AI to it based on the trends globally. And you can see when Kate was sort of introducing where we are, it was interesting. She mentioned we've already gone, utilized 9% of the year. I wouldn't even think like that. But it's funny how data, really plays a role in the world we live in today. So anyway, before we really go into it, well, yes, thanks again. I'm Sheyi. You might hear them call me Cheryl, but eventually they'll get there. But Sheyi is my name. Like they said, I wouldn't have to reintroduce myself, but yes, I'm very passionate on strategy. This is what we do as a company, but we call ourselves a new age consulting company because we're very passionate about what we do, and we try to work closely with businesses to help mitigate this. Now, what makes this sort of webinar quite unique is a lot of times we find businesses are very big on data, but they fail to realize the strategic objective behind why they go for certain data. So this is why we thought we would have this webinar, kick off the year with this webinar, because we want to get businesses to realize they should have a different thought process around that. So throughout this conversation, myself and Jean will be going back and forth, with a number of questions from AI, and hopefully we'll answer lots of questions. At the very end, like Kate said, we're going to have a Q&A session where you're more than welcome to ask us as many questions as possible, and we will do our best to get back to you. So just a quick background for myself. My background's energy utilities. We've been doing transformation for over 15 years now across globally, actually. Worked for the likes of Shell, done projects rather for the likes of Shell, Thames Water, Northumbria Water, BP, and a few other startups here and there. So quite a vast amount of experience globally. And even the Nigerian presidency as well. We're involved in the power sector reform, which happened a couple of years ago during one of the presidents, Yaradua, before Goodluck Jonathan took over. So very interesting, diverse portfolio. And then I'll hand over to Jean now, because I've got 3 minutes. AI actually scripted out everything. It's actually pretty impressive. So I'll try not to overrun before I sort of crash the system. Over to you, Jean.
Thanks, Sheyi, and welcome everyone. I think, well, that is exciting what is happening today with artificial intelligence, with analytics, with focus for the business and consulting. It's amazing that maybe the whole event that we prepare today is, as you said, scripted, created for AI. Our big virtual host today, Kate and Paul, is amazing. The expressions of the face, the movements, the voice, everything is with AI. So, well, I think is a huge potential that we could use into the business to discover and to exponential our companies using that technologies. I'm Jean Bernier, and as Paul said, I think it was, I'm a Colombian guy running my business today in the UK. And well, thanks, Sheyi, for opening that opportunity to us to show our business and to continue helping other companies. I think the connection that we are created from the last year is amazing to help other companies. And well, it's an honor for me to be here and, well, trying to share as many as we can with technology, with data analytics, artificial intelligence, and have fun day to day and share all your questions and all your insights about the event that we have today. So, well, maybe we can continue with the AI questions and let the virtual characters moving the event.
Absolutely. Okay, so just confirming my screen can be seen.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So over to you, Kate.
Thank you, Shelley and Jean. It has been very valuable. We have carefully selected questions from many business leaders for the new year. What should be the growth target for 2023 as a business? What does growth look like in real life? You're first, Shelley.
Okay, that is a very good question. So she's basically asked, what should your growth targets be like for 2023, and what does growth look like in real life? That is a very good question. Again, it's very interesting these questions are asked because it's all about algorithm they have used based on what's trending, the questions being asked on LinkedIn or multiple platforms. This is where these questions are coming from. So it's not just from the top of the head, but based on what's happening in the World Wide Web, should I say, which does make it quite concerning and leads me to what I think businesses should focus on. Obviously, without a doubt, we've gone through the COVID times. That was a very disruptive era for everybody and every business. A lot of things we didn't plan for, a lot of chaos, and people quickly began to sort of improve how they work in terms of optimizing their day-to-day activities. And what we found, which was a trend, is what we're literally using now, the platform called Zoom, or should I say video reality conversations. That was when we noticed a spike in people having meetings virtually as opposed to in person. And that was a catalyst to making this a day-to-day practice or a normal way of life, which then resulted in a lot of remote working, a lot of people working from home, having meetings virtually and so on, which again is very interesting because I remember in the oil and gas space, we do a lot of remote operations, so like daily production reviews or allocation of hydrocarbons and so on, where we actually have meetings with people offshore virtually. So that technology has been there. However, business hasn't necessarily adapted it. So the point I'm trying to raise is for 2023, I think it's very important that businesses understand that there's a change in mindset, that the world has changed, the way we practice business has changed, and there must be recognition of technology, because without technology, a lot of operations will not necessarily work as effectively as they should. However, from a strategic perspective, this is where things like roadmaps and so on come into play. But again, I'll get into that in greater detail much later. So in terms of real life, just to answer this question, in order to grow for 2023, I strongly believe there needs to be a lot more collaboration. I think there needs to be a lot more sort of utilization of technology to aid conversations, harness technology. There's a lot of automation that can take place to help optimize how you function as a business. Again, depending on what sector you were in. And Aisha at the very start did ask a question because she's in the art space, creative space, and she's concerned. Obviously, we all have seen on social media, particularly AI creating things, and are being sold in the NFT space, for quite a premium, which again is concerning because you wonder, well, what happens to my skill set? Well, that's an example in the arts world. You have, I don't know if you've all seen recently, AI representing a case from a legal perspective. You now have AI driving legal battles. This is where the world is heading. Obviously, for consultants like us, I would hope there would not be any AI because, it would make life difficult. But then again, you have technology that is really banking on data, and with this data, they're able to make informed decision. But from our perspective, what we tell clients and people is, if you do not have the good data, AI will make the bad choices, because with good data, you can make meaningful decisions. So I'm going to stop there and pass over to John. I'd like to know what he thinks based on that. Yeah, what are your thoughts, John?
Thanks, Sheyi. Well, that is maybe, for my perspective, I'm using data, the most important question for any business every day and every year is about how many or how much I want to grow as business. And I think is a life decision if I want to grow exponentially or incremental, and how much is that growth. But we are working from the data perspective in a concept that is called minimum viable growth. And that is important to understand the impact that we have when create a growth target for the business. I want to quote McKinsey research for the last year, November 2022, and they found that most of the small and medium business globally grow in 2022 almost 3%. Indeed, it was 2.8% per year. That is maybe no growing, because if you create or add to the equation the uncertainty of the market and other variables, well, 3% is really maybe the error factor that you could have in a calculus. So the minimum viable growth that we propose for the companies and to create a challenging growth is at least 40%, but it has a data or a base in the data. You could have the inflation that globally is around 14%, and maybe in other countries could be higher or lower, but think in 14%. Also use the currency devaluations. It not happens in all the countries, but most of the world, maybe against the US dollar, has a devaluation, and that impacts the global market trade. And also add more for the global domestic product that is maybe 3 or 4%. and market percentage is maybe 5%. It gives you almost 30%. That is the zero to start growing as a business. So if when 2023 begins 4 weeks ago, and you said, I want to grow 10% this year, the real growth target should be at least 40% to start having that 10%. And something different or lower than the 40%, it will mean for a business a contraction of the operation. So we need to start creating challenging targets and change our mindset about the growth and how it looks maybe in the daily operation. My invitation is try to think in the 52 weeks that we have as companies all the year, the whole year. If we maybe run the extra mile, walk away and create at least one different experiment to grow the company every week of the year, 52 weeks, it means that if you create a compound model or exponential model, it gives you at least a growth opportunity of 170%. It means we could create new different strategies and use data and technology to speed up the business model and achieve bigger growth. That is my perspective about growth, Sheyi.
Yeah, Jean, very, very, very informative, and again, it's very important people set these targets, going back to what we said earlier around milestones, roadmaps, and have a good vision behind what you want to achieve in your business, and try not to sound too high level. This boils down to senior leadership, management, CEOs and so on, making the right decisions and setting the right targets, because this impacts the entire business. But before we proceed, I'll just hand over to Paul, who has something to ask. So over to you, Paul.
Wow, that's impressive. Let's talk strategy. I have some ideas. Why do so many companies have brilliant plans and strategies, but the results never come? Where is the problem? In the strategy or the execution? Both other sides. This time, I want Jean to go first.
So Jean, that was aimed at you. He's basically
Yes,
asked, like you said, companies have a lot of brilliant ideas, strategies, but the results, they all these things never really happen, so Jean, I'm sorry, Paul is asking, where exactly is the problem? Is it the strategy, or is it the execution, or is it both? What's your take on this, Jean?
Well, I'm a little bit nervous with the AI asking and that challenging questions. Well, I think, and that is interesting because today, maybe minutes ago, before our meeting, I saw a LinkedIn post from a business leader, a friend of mine with a company in Spain, and he makes a similar question. Are you getting the results that you want? Is the time to maybe pivot the strategy? I'm thinking that is not pivot the business model. Sometimes we need to iterate the strategy, change the strategy.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's about how many different things we are trying and testing, also validating as business today. Before pandemics and maybe the business as usual 20 years ago, 10 years ago, we can have maybe the benefit or to be slow in the companies, maybe try a few strategies and actions. But the real thing, and using the numbers, we are a global economy today, totally different than years ago. And we are maybe trying to attract, if we are B2B, at least 250 million companies. That is the statistics about how many companies are in the world. And if we think in people, it's almost 8 billion people in the world. So it's a real aggressive race and challenge to try to get attention. And that is the first thing in the strategy to grow. It's about the speed, it's about how we could accelerate the business, how many different things we could try. In Colombia, we say something in Spanish. I don't know how to the right way to say it in English, but you could not put all the eggs in the same bag. You need to try different things and have different alternatives. Also for go to the market and for the internal activities. And that is important because you should use technology today, not only data, not only AI. You need to use technology to create more time for your people into the company and help them to make the best thing that they could do is create value, think, create ideas. Because I think the strategies and the result doesn't come to a company when we have a lack of ideas and a lack of execute ideas. Sometimes, and yesterday talking with a business leader, they say something interesting is that they are scared to fail. And I say there is nothing wrong with the fail. We need to try more things to really meet the success. But if we don't try anything, the probability to get success, it will be nothing or the small possible. So again, with my first intervention, try to make most activities, more strategies, because the result will come if we try more time and execute faster. And the technology gives that for the companies, the speed to execute.
Fantastic. Jean, that's very, very good input there. I think, yeah, I think you've said it quite nicely. Now, I think I would just like to throw things from a slightly different perspective. If you all recall from the intro, you know, Jean has a very IT focused approach, you know, and I sort of have this whole consulting strategy and transformation approach, which is what makes our synergy fantastic, because it's bringing together the best of IT with the best of strategy to produce something like never before. Now, the way we tend to look at things is, yes, there's a lot of ideas. You know, yes, you can do things from an agile perspective in iterative improvements, which is where you sort of do things slightly quicker. You know, that's all fair and fine. But our approach really as a company is we tend to focus more on the business processes and the people. Now, that's fundamental, irrespective of AI and fantastic data and all that information somehow comes from people. So it's important you harness the best out of people. Now, what that means is, you know, yes, you have ideas, initiatives you want to deploy for the year 2023 as an example, you know, however, you need to ask yourself as a leader, do I have the right skill sets within my organization to deliver on this project or this initiative? Do I have are they going to be clashes within the team? What's the team morale like? What's the spirit like? How would people work together? You know, okay, fine. You know, you let's assume you have the right team, you have the right processes. Well, how does it flow? You know, from, let's say, a customer contacts you to execution. What does that process look like? How can I optimize it? This is very, very crucial. We've dealt with clients in the past, even recently, where, you know, they implemented a solution, fantastic state of the art. The business invested so much money in this technology. However, there was poor communication within the organization. Now, no AI could probably fix that if the data wasn't sort of filtered through properly. So we had to get the people to align. We had to get the people and the various teams to communicate. You know, it was as little as setting up certain meetings for them to meet frequently to just sort of really understand where everybody's head is at. That is very fundamental. So someone's asked the question here, you know, you keep hearing the word strategy. How would you define strategy? I think for me, it's simply a case of a roadmap. Look at strategy as your plan, your roadmap to make something happen. You know, on a high level, it doesn't need to have the little details, the nitty-gritty, but just like on a high level, I am currently here and I want to be here at the end of the year. I want to increase by 10%, I want to increase by 20%. I want my technology department to increase by this amount. I want to migrate to this. So all that is, like what the strategy on how you get there, is what I'm trying to say here. So hopefully that answers your question. But again, I will come to that in more detail because we have a few more questions from AI. So I hope this is making sense. We're doing well for time, and I see Jean has raised his hand. Jean, if you have a pretty quick question, I'm more than happy for you to ask it now, and then we continue. Oh, that's you, it's John, it's you. Yeah, go ahead.
Don't worry. I love your comment about the communication. It's very important, and that gave me a reminder about Steve Jobs. Is also about focus. If we focus, we could make more things, create more strategies, but with a purpose. And that is maybe something interesting to have in mind too.
Very true. Very true. Okay, so should we move on to the next? I believe Kate wants to ask the next question. So Kate, over to you.
This session is amazing. I am happy to be here today. I am sharing Sheyi and Jean's LinkedIn. My next question makes me curious. Sheyi, Jean, how does technology help companies move faster? What technologies do you recommend to have on the radar for 2023? And a bonus question. Is data a technology, or what is it in this context? Sheyi, please share your thoughts.
Okay, that's a very, very good one. I'll start with her latter question, which was, is data technology or what is it in this context? That's a very good question. We shouldn't have had AI ask these questions, actually, because of slightly throws one off balance. I would say data is a form of technology. This is being recorded. This is a tricky one. I would say data is a form of technology because, data feeds into technology to help optimize how things function. And tying that into the first question, how does technology help companies move faster? It helps you with better analytics, better decision making. Okay, am I doing things right? So even little things like, for instance, I'd use Oclas as an example. Anytime people visit our website, we get notified, we know, okay, somebody from this region has visited our website. And then what then happens subconsciously is you start making decisions based on the information you're getting. So if I notice that, okay, a lot of people in, let's say, Paris are always visiting Oclas website, something is happening on the website. There's something in Paris they like about Oclas. So maybe we should sort of target our market in that area. So if I want to do like a Facebook ad or any of those services, I can then target my marketing in that area. However, I mean, that's just a generic one for a lot of startups. But when you're dealing with the likes of companies like, let's say, Shell, hydrocarbon allocation. So for instance, you get various parameters on the, let's say, the flow of oil through a pipeline. But you notice that certain periods, there's a drop or a dip in production. So what flows through the pipes dips. If you notice that trend quite significantly, you can build EBS models, which are like exceptional base surveillance tools that would automatically trigger the relevant departments, even security, to say, look, we notice there's a constant dip within this window, time-wise. It might be what's surveying what's happening. And then depending on how advanced the platform might be, you might be able to send remote operations like drones or people in cars or whatever, depending again on technology, to go survey the area to actually understand what's happening. Is it a dip in temperature, or could it be theft? Could it be bunkering? This is where data comes in. From my perspective, do you recommend, what technology do you recommend people should to have in 2023? I would say, technology that helps give you data. It's not just necessarily having a phone or XYZ, but having technology that gives you informative information about whatever business venture it is you're trying to get into. So like I said, with Oclas, we're constantly getting data on people in different parts of the world, information from what they like, what they do, where they're based. And this helps us make decisions as a business. CRMs are very, very useful these days. CRM systems, what's it, things like pipe drive and so on. Those are also very good tools, you know, but I'll let John sort of touch on these more, because this is very much up his street. But I hope I have made sense so far. Over to you, John.
Thanks, Sheyi. I agree with you. And first, about data is or not a technology. I think data is the base for the technology. And we need to validate or understand data could be analog and today we have a lot of analog data in the world, and would be digital. That is maybe most of the data that we have today. But data is the base for the technology and to help create more things with the technology. Most of the technologies that we have today, you mentioned before, the CRM, the website, social network, doesn't work if we haven't data into that context. And that makes an important review from data. We need, is not about the how many data you have, is more about the quality of the data that you could use for your company. That is very, very important. And that creates maybe focus, intention, and methodology for use the technology. There are today, I could say, millions for technologies or millions of platforms and software that could help companies. But first, before choose a technology that could help us to speed up the business, is what is the best technology for us? And that is maybe a question. You mentioned CRMs, and in our research that we did last year, there are more than 2,000 CRMs in the world to the offer. And I know we are maybe the small version of all the CRMs that we could research. Could be more than 2,000. And when you say a huge offer or CRMs, which is the best CRM for my company? It could be the company A, B, or C. I don't want to mention any kind of companies. And you need to find the purpose for that technology, the kind of data that you need to maybe acquire, process with that technologies. And that would go to other things. When you mention social network or the website, that is also technologies, and sometimes we think are the simplest technologies, but we need to choose the right technology. For example, a social network like Twitch, that is more for gamers, is the right place to the AnniQ brand or to the Oclas brand. We need to choose the right technology. LinkedIn, for example, is a very nice technology for B2B companies. And maybe other advice for that is try to use technologies that release time for you into the business, release time for people. In my case, as CEO of the company, I use many technologies to help my life better. From the calendar in my email, I use Outlook and have the calendar with all the reminders, to smart technologies using AI, virtual assistants that help me to be maybe more productive, more efficient in my activities. So find technologies that help you to release time for your people, for you in the process. And that could be similar to AI, but also focus on technologies that remove or create less friction in the business journey. Sometimes we forget the journey for the employees for the company or for our users, our clients, our market, and we need to use technologies that removes frictions, avoiding frictions in any time. And for example, today with the platform that we use to show the event of today, Eventbrite, and they they doesn't send the Zoom link directly, and people needs to have or create an account. That is something small, but is a friction. Maybe if the links come directly, it's totally different. So that is the importance of choose the right technologies. That is maybe my thoughts about that.
Yeah, no, Jean, I think you're spot on. And again, this is going back to why, even as businesses, irrespective of where you're sat within the leadership chain, you need to try things out and learn and only improve. This is continuous improvement, we call it. So example, like Jean just made reference to, we've held events before with Eventbrite, but it didn't jump out at us, for instance, that it doesn't send out the link. So going back to friction, that is a stagger in the process, because why would I then have to send out the link to everybody and you're firefighting because you typically only find out during the session. So we have lost out quite a substantial amount of guests from joining because of that glitch. We've learned now, we've recorded it. It's not going to happen again. So iterative improvement. Also, so something Jean touched on, from a, strategic perspective and choosing the right technology that's right for you. This is where strategy also comes in. And, there's something we call day in the life of like dialogues, or basically an assessment we conduct with clients to truly understand what their requirements are. Yes, it's one thing to say, okay, I'll give you a little case study. We had a client who, one of the largest utility companies here in the UK, the senior leadership had a lot of budget they wanted to sort of obviously spend. And the decision from IT was, let's get everybody on the field tough pads. Now, that's a fantastic one, because they're getting indestructible computers that if they're out in the field doing work, it will not necessarily break, it's waterproof and so on. It looks good, it's amazing, and it's very expensive equipment. So for them, it's like we're industry leading, or we're advanced. However, from a business perspective, that's a very poor decision, and I'll tell you why. These tough pads were given to obviously multiple people who were going out in the fields to sort of take things like meter readings, install pipes, and so on. So these are people out in the cold. Like I said, it was in the UK, up north, out in the cold. Big fingers, obviously, because they're doing a lot of, manual labor, having to now hold a tough pad, which is quite chunky. And, you're having to use your fingers. Bearing in mind, you're probably wearing gloves, or your fingers are just dirty or grimy, and you're trying to press the start button and select apps on this tough pad. Long and short, it was a disaster. The people who these items were given to didn't find it useful, and it was frustrating. So what they ended up doing was they'll go to site. Again, bearing in mind, this tough pads also had camera. They never used the camera because the quality was absolutely ridiculous. They'll end up going to site, use their phones, take pictures, do everything on their phone, and then they'll finish all the jobs they had to do for the day. And when they get back to the office, that's when they sit down with these tough pads to actually input the data. Now, why that was a flaw is because the idea from a business sense was, when you take pictures with your tough pad, it locks in the coordinates. So we know exactly where that job was done. And that's automatically updated to the system. So we can know where things are happening from a repeat jobs perspective. Also, the parameters you fill, it tells you, take a picture from like 2 meters back, 3 meters close, whatever the case might be. All that was lost. And more frustrating is when they get back to the office, having done like 12 or so jobs, they don't necessarily remember the detail of what they did. So it was just a case of a tick box. And then, people complained, and the business ended up thinking of another solution. Luckily, we got there in time, and we recommended a few solutions based on a lot of analytics. And like I said, Dilos, which is day in the life of, where we actually spend time with the people doing the work. The people that so this is, you have leadership who are sat in the fancy offices, drinking coffee, but you also have people who are getting their hands dirty. It's very important you understand what it is they're trying to do and see how you can translate that into business sense. So that's what I thought I'll throw that in. So if I just hand over to Paul, John, did you want to say anything, or should Paul go next?
No, go with Paul.
Yeah.
What a fantastic combination of strategy, data, and technology to create time and opportunity for business. I have one more question before I open up to questions from the floor. You can ask using the chat or the question button. You mentioned artificial intelligence, business analytics, and data. I agree that all of them are vital for a company today, but how can a company start using them? How can a company start using them easily and quickly? I mean, do all companies have to go a long way to use these technologies, or are there shortcuts? Please, give us at least one idea to start transforming strategies with technology after this webinar. After lunch today, who wants to start first?
Okay, Jean, that was a loaded question. um, do you want to go first? Because I'm still trying to get my thoughts around. Throw you under the bus here. Basically, what they've said is, we've mentioned things like data analytics, AI, artificial intelligence, obviously data, and Paul agrees with what we've said. So he's now asking, how can companies start using them easily today? Do companies have to go a long way to use these technologies, or are there any shortcuts? Also, we should please give at least one idea to start transforming strategies with technology, after this webinar, after lunch today, he says. Yeah. So what's your take? What avenues do people have for technology, AI, and so on? Do they have to have so much money? Do they have to be fully loaded businesses in terms of turning over substantial revenue, or are there ways for them to actually start this journey?
Yes. Well, that is very, very interesting question. I have many thoughts about how a company could use that technologies, make easily and also in the most cost-efficient way. And maybe the first thing that I want to share is today, not only with AI, many technologies are democratized, and we have a wide offer around the world for technologies, and that is very interesting because a small and medium business could have access to many technologies like AI with a couple of pounds or euros or even dollars, and today is more simpler. The good news is maybe today most of the companies are using AI and using analytics technologies on behind, and maybe they don't notice about that. For example, the spam filters in your email box, if you use Google or Microsoft or other vendors of the emails, they use very nice spam filters on behind. Other technologies, maybe your smartphones, no matter if it is Android or iOS, that use AI and technologies today to help many of the activities that we have. My big advice is first, identify what are the challenges for your business. In what activities or which activities or in the journey for the company where you could create more time or reduce the friction and what could be automated and adds value, because not all the actions that could be automated should be automated or transfer value. Sometimes the human contact is very important. So try to identify how you could get more time with the technologies. And maybe the best option today is use the search criteria, and for any challenge that you have, use the SAS in the Google or in your browser. For example, you could use business analytics SAS, and you could find a lot of alternatives, or you could use a chatbot, SaaS, software as a service, and have many opportunities to use them. Maybe the big thing to have in mind is today, any kind of company should use disruptive technologies, and artificial intelligence today is the leader of the technologies. There are other important: blockchain, metaverse, quantum computing, virtual reality, augmented reality. All that technologies are very interesting, but AI is really helping business, is helping people today to make more things, to achieve more things and go faster. So we need to have that technologies. And one big stat about that, again, a McKinsey research from last year, they found that companies that use AI and business analytics today, they are growing 121% more than companies that don't use that technologies. So open your opportunity and try to find the right technologies. And you say, Sheyi, before, we need to try maybe sometimes or many times the technologies to validate which are the right for our business. And maybe a lot of networking. Try talk with other business leaders, share the experiences, ask for an advice or get mentoring, for example. And I want to make the ask here. Use Oclas solutions or use Oclas mentoring and consulting to have to reduce the time to find the right technologies. That is the way that we could maybe move faster and take advantage of AI or data solutions.
Yeah, John, thank you so much for that. And I cannot agree anymore. You know, I think this was obviously a very, very good question. You don't need to have millions and millions to start best practice. You know, I think for me, it's just going back to the fundamentals. And I believe on our news, in the blog section of Oclas, we have a few articles that touch on this. It's very important you sort of start best practice. And what does that mean? Is like the quality of your data. How do you get data? It's all about data. Data is what literally is used to build up on your analytics. So for instance, again, you know, a little example of how we use AI is, you know, on our website, you know, we know when we send out newsletters or campaigns or whatever, we know what the access rate is like. We know what words are sort of ranking. We know what, when people search for, like, you know, on Google, we know what the types, you know, going back to SEOs and so on, what's trending. This is what helps feed us with useful information to make the next best step, you know. And then, of course, this is where our synergy with AnniQ comes in, because, you know, we understand it from the business perspective. They are black belts when it comes to technology and the whole automation journey. And just having that fusion where you're able to say, okay, as a CEO, as an owner, a founder, or whatever the case might be in the business, you say, this is my target operating model. In other words, my term, I call it, or the direction you want your company to go. We now understand where your vision is as a business. So this is something fundamental for those who might be startups or even mature companies. It's fundamental you have your vision and mission. It's fundamental you actually sort of state this at the very start of your financial year or of your year start, depending on how your company functions, so that your team buy into that vision and mission. And then, of course, we align whatever solutions in terms of technology, AI, whatever the case might be, to that vision. It's not just a case of going and grabbing. And like you rightly said, you know, there's so much out there, 2,000 CRMs. Are you going to test every one of them? You know, and when you approach these people, it's all about sales. They make it sound perfect. So this is where having got that broad expertise and understanding across multiple sectors, it really does help point one in the right direction. We're now running over time. So I will just hand over to Kate, who wants to say something. I think she's got a final question, if I'm not mistaken, and then we see what happens from there. So bear with me. I'll just hand over to Kate now.
What a beautiful and inspiring session. It's time for public questions, yeah. Now the dynamic is that Sheyi or Jean choose a one and share the answers, and so on. Let's try to solve all the requests. Remember to use the chat or the question button to submit it. Let's get started, team.
All right, thank you, Kate. So I think this means we open the floor to any questions from anybody in the public. So any of you, any of the guests. Now, this is where you ask your questions. So just, you can either unmute your mic and ask the question, or raise your hand, or type your questions in the chat section. But we would like this to be interactive. So please unmute your mic and please comment.
We have one question in the chat from Asia. Yeah,
okay.
let me spell. do they also have to be extremely IT inclined or user friendly? I think is and let me answer that. I think.
Hi, Sean.
Oh,
Thank you.
Aisha, go ahead, please, with your question.
No, sorry, you already were asking the question. Does one have to be, IT inclined, or is it user friendly? Like for instance, I am not an IT inclined person, but I'm very interested, and with the. Please just help me out. Sorry.
Yeah. So I think Aisha's question, sorry, Aisha, just tell me if I get this right, but I think what I'm hearing here is I'm not an IT person. It freaks me out. I'm not really interested in all that IT lingo, AI, all that type of stuff. What do people like you do? What solutions do we have out there to help? Or how do we proceed? So I think Jean, what's your take on Aisha's question?
Thank you.
You're welcome, Aisha.
I think technology is not an about the issue only. Technology for business should be maybe or first how we could create value, how we could make the journey and the life easier for people, and how we could maybe with the technology create more time and remove frictions into the journey. After that, technology, when we decide what is the best technology, it moves to IT to they manage and control the technology, deploy into the company and all the other technical activities. But first, technology should focus and match with the business purpose and help the business to grow. I think that is the most important.
Jean, well said. Yeah, Aisha, I hope that answers your question. I will just throw in some more things to that as well. Again, there's so much out there, so many solutions, Again, let's just go back to fundamentals. We all have mobile devices. Why do you use a certain type of phone? What are you trying to get out of it? Now, for some people, it's, I want a phone to take good pictures. Well, that's part of your requirement. I need a phone to capture good photos. Or I need a phone with lots of memory because I like having I like recording video content because I want to upload them on YouTube or whatever. Or it might be a case of I need a phone with a big screen because I love reading books. Now, understanding those nitty-gritty things and then speaking to the right people to help you steer you in the right direction. You don't necessarily need to be a black belt in IT, to sort of make the right decisions. However, there has to be a little understanding from a high-level perspective, and then, of course, working with the right people to sort of steer you in the right direction. I mean, my background's IT, but I'm nothing compared to John from a tech perspective, with what he does with AI and all of that. However, I'm still able to hold the conversation and, have an idea around, oh, AI, fancy. I mean, I was completely blown away when we had this, the scripts from AI on what we're going to discuss, very impressive. But then again, coming back to your question, you don't necessarily need to be a black belt, there are teams and people out there that can help you on this journey. I'll just pass over to, I see Timothy has got a question. He's got his hand up. Timothy, over to you.
Thank you, Sheyi. Thank you, Jean. Yeah, this was really good. But so I'm in the healthcare space, so as a care agency, and one of our issues is staff retention and looking after clients. So because we've got a lot of paperwork. So my question is this: with AI, is there a way of automating communication? So automating communication in the sense of Mr. Smith needs to take his medication maybe 4 times a day, but he only has 3 visits a day. Can we somehow communicate with him? Because if we ring the phone, he may not pick up or he may miss the call. Is there a way of automating, or how can we use AI to communicate that, take that medication, for example? if that makes sense. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. Jean, if you're happy with me, I'll just say a few things and then hand over to you, and you just hit the nail in the head, you know. So I'm going to answer your question, Timothy, from a strategic perspective or strategic point. The simple answer is yes. A lot of these processes can be automated. Now, again, it all depends on the target audience. So my understanding here is if you're in the healthcare space, I don't know if it's the elders or the younger crowd. So if we say the elders who are not necessarily technology savvy, but there are various solutions you can use out there, like, you know, again, depending on budget and what they might be spending, or if it's all within your care home, you can actually make your care home an intelligent care home, whereby you have various prompts, you know, like automatic reminders which come out of speakers and are audible to them to hear. Or if they are not, particularly if they have hearing difficulty, you can have screens in different parts of the care home which sort of prompt at certain times, it is time to take your medicine if you have confirmed by clicking this button. And there's a little bit of sort of mindset change as well with them. You need to get them to understand and how easy you make this. So to answer your question, yes, there is. Just like, for instance, on Oclas, I shouldn't say this, but a lot of times when people go on our website, you're greeted with a bot who chats with you. None of us are doing that. It's the computer, and it says, thank you for calling. How can we help you? Ask the next question. Based on what you say, he reads the string, knows what the next best question is, and then sends you either a link or says contact us. And a lot of businesses do this as well. You know, so just like with Amazon, for instance, Amazon chat, how can I help you? That you get. So how do we, you know, harness technology to help us with what we're trying to do? So from your perspective, yes, 100%. Jean, what's your take on this?
Yes,
Phillip,
I agree.
very good afternoon. How are you doing today? Oh, it's morning actually. It's not afternoon quite yet. How are you? Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I'll just
yeah.
Sorry,
no, just a quick question. I'm a member of a kind of a charity society, and I think they've actually booked some golf session. I think at your cost.
Sorry, Basi, are you speaking to us?
I've never played them before. I'm just thinking.
Okay, I think he's got a call. Sorry, John. Apologies.
Don't worry. I agree with your answer. And the short question, Timothy, is yes. From the technical perspective, technology and AI today could improve and help communication, natural language processing, text-to-speech, speech-to-text. One example is that we have today with Kate and Paul. Just listen the voices, pronunciation, accent we could create today, not only in English or for Spanish or other language, we could create communication. But most important is not only create answers. Today, AI has the skill to understand the context of a conversation and also create conversations to engage. It's not only transfer information, because that maybe exists several years before, but today we have the opportunity to create context and engage with that. So in the case that you say, just imagine something like that. A patient that needs to take their medicines several times per day, but that person has sorry, I forgot the name of the illness that for the memory, not Parkinson.
Dementia.
Yes, dementia. And that people forgot anything, forgot their medicines, forgot if they need to drink with water or other things, and maybe the most basic activities. So imagine the technology not only using a voice, also watching through the camera or cell phone, watching that person and going with them to maybe the kitchen and helping to take a glass of water and drink the pills, all the process. So we could create engagement with people today using that kind of technologies. And the most important, I think, is today we can understand the context, not only create responses that was programmed before. We could react in real time, and that is amazing.
Oh, fantastic, John. Hopefully, Timothy, hope that answers your question.
that did. It opened up more questions, but I won't do it now. We'll do it later.
All right,
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. I see we have another question here by Madam Rita. Does an organization need to engage an M&E person to first identify the gaps and then decide the best strategy to apply? That's a question. Jean, do you want to have a stab, or should I think this sounds very strategic. It's a strategy-related question, but obviously, Jean, please feel free to add yours. So does an organization need to engage an M&E person first? I would say not necessarily. You know, this is where like having consultants or the right skilled people within the organization to help identify the gaps before, you know, going on your strategic journey. Now, again, when you have a good strategy in place, the gaps are identified and are recorded and are somehow mitigated. So I hope that answers your question. Jean, what do you think?
Yes. First, I think we need also measure, monitoring, evaluating that is very, very important. But first, you need not only identify the gaps, also the frictions that we have into the business, the journey that I said before for the process, because that gives purpose for the technology, any kind of technology that you use. You mentioned before, simple as the website. If we identify the gaps for our market, for communication, how we could remove or avoid frictions, we could monitor or measure the right things, continue evaluating and using the right technologies.
Hi, Jean. That was very, very good, actually. Any other questions? So any other questions before I hand over to Kate? Okay, I'll take silence as to know. Just before everyone leaves as well, and before I hand over to Kate, we have a feedback form.
I'm sharing the survey link. Sorry, it's only me that I missed the connection, or is Sheyi?
Apologies, I don't know what happened. I got kicked out. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we hear you again.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. Anyway, so I was just saying, I was just pasting in the link, and I think that was what kicked me out, actually. So we have a survey which I would really appreciate as many of you completing. It was, I don't want to paste it here because when I did that, it closed the Zoom app. So I think, Jean, if you don't mind pasting the link for the survey on there so everyone can sort of complete, that would be very, very useful to us. And in that process, I would then hand over to Kate for, I think it's a closing remark. Let's see what she has to say. Over to you, Kate.
Hello again, crew and everyone. First of all, I want to thank you for attending and investing your time in learning from Sheyi and Jean. A few last comments. Firstly, in the next few days, we'll be recording via email, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And lastly, please fill out the survey to help us improve and focus upcoming webinars.
Kate, I add to your words and sentiment. I enjoyed our webinar and learned a lot. Thanks to all who make it possible, and best vibes to Sheyi and Jean. Let's keep in touch and do business. Let's help others grow and conquer 2023 with data and technology-powered strategies. We are Kate and Paul, two artificial intelligence people created especially for this event. We hope you enjoy the session and see you at our next event. Have a great week with the best energy. Bye.
All right then. So thank you so much, the virtual assistant people, Kate and Paul. Thank you, Kemi, who's been behind the scenes. Thanks to the AnniQ IT team as well for making this happen. And of course, thank you, Jean, for the time and making this session happen, you know. And to all of you who have attended, thank you very, very, very much. Just to let you all know, there'll be lots of fantastic talks taking place in 2023. Don't be surprised if you see of a virtual reality or a real life person where we have holograms with AI, with myself and Jean having a talk. There's a lot of exciting things coming in 2023. So please don't hesitate to contact us. Our details are all within the links we've sent you. We look forward to hearing from each and every one of you. Any questions, comments, do not hesitate to reach out. We're very approachable companies. This is partly why we consider ourselves as new age consulting businesses, more or less. So thank you all so much. And I wish you a lovely rest of the week.
Thanks to everyone. Hi, thanks, Sheyi.
Yeah, Jean, did you want to say anything before we end the call?
No, thanks. Well, yes, thanks for all your attendees. And well, my recommendation as always is challenge your business to grow, think in more than 40%, choose the exponential mindset and grow, and well, use technology with Oclas and AnniQ to grow faster your business.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. All right, everyone. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Have a lovely week.
Mm-hmm.